was a school leader, I had a family that came and transferred their students into my school. And, you always wonder when families transfer their kids in, sort of, and it's sort of an abrupt decision mid-year or what have you. And I said, well, tell me more about, how did you hear about us, or what are you thinking, and so on. And they had heard good things about our school from a neighbor, but they told me the reason that they wanted to transfer their children in was because they had identical twins. And they didn't want the twins to be in the same class because they wanted them, to sort of have their own experience, and they didn't want folks mixing them up and so on. So they were in two different classes, but it was the same grade. So they were both in first grade. And what the parents found out was that even though the children were in the same school, the very same school, and actually just neighboring classrooms, what one child was learning was very different from what the other child was learning. The standards that one teacher had was very different from the standards that another teacher had. And so they realized that the A that one student was getting was very different from the A that the other student was getting. And so the parent said, I realized that Susie, and I'm just making up that name, that was not the name of the student, I realized that Susie knew a lot more than Katie. And I couldn't understand why. And then when they started sending home work and all of this, the work was so much different. Now imagine if all that parent knew was, well, Susie passed the test and she got 90, and Katie passed the test and she got 90. But they're different tests. And one teacher just wants them to answer very simple questions. The other teacher wants them to go into great detail. So here it is that you've got a grade, and both students have a grade, but they don't mean the same thing. And when that parent talked to me, because that's a very unique situation, right? To have twins, to have them in the very same school, in the very same grade, but realize that even at a classroom level, there was a difference in the instruction and in the way that the curriculum was being delivered. And those are the kinds of things that we learn when we look at how students are doing in our schools. And we need to have that information. And we need to treat that information with urgency so that we can identify bright spots. And from identifying bright spots, we can figure out who do we need to learn from in our state. Because we have excellent educators across our state that are doing excellent work. And the ones that are doing the best work, that will reveal itself in a number of ways. And one of the ways that it does is in the results that we get on standardized tests. That's not the only variable that determines what happens on a standardized test, but it does give us some understanding of the quality of teaching in many cases. And so we want to be able to identify those bright spots and gravitate towards those places so that we can learn. And where we have challenges, we want to be able to solve those challenges. But it begins with being transparent about the data.